Social media has reshaped the way that we connect, express, and understand ourselves. From Instagram to TikTok to Snapchat, these platforms are more than just apps, they're ecosystems. And they really just shape our day-to-day lives massively. And, drawing on insights from Generation Like and Anne-Helen Peterson's article, Why Teens Love Grace Helbig, I really want to explore how media platforms reflect our desires as the younger generation that's coming through, this quote-unquote Generation Like. How these sort of social media platforms reflect our desires whilst almost shaping our behavior quite subtly without us realizing almost. Generation Like really revealed how social media has become a currency for validation, and platforms such as Instagram and TikTok thrive off of likes, shares, interactions, comments, whatever it may be, and have almost become a social status, a symbol of social capital, if you will. And Instagram's sort of visual first approach and TikTok's algorithm and the short videos that TikTok drives at you has really hooked us into rewarding creators who can grab attention in seconds. And as a result, that's sort of fueled a culture where we lose our ability to focus for longer periods of time. And more importantly, we constantly curate our online personas to almost maximize our visibility online. Take example of Instagram and TikTok. Both platforms prioritize this short, visually engaging content, but they approach it very differently. TikTok's For You page is like an endless scroll, or Instagram leans heavily on curated feeds, personalized reels. And this sort of shows two very different strategies, and yet they both have the same goal, which is to engage us for as long as possible and sort of erasing the line that exists between connection and consumption. But then we get a contrasting sort of view from Anne-Helen Peterson's analysis, and which sort of reminds us as to the importance of authenticity. As she stood out for being relatable, the way in which she's relatable is sort of a fascinating contrast to what the majority of the online content we see on TikTok and Instagram really is. And this need for authenticity plays out differently on each platform, obviously. Private conversations, private stories on Snapchat feel a bit more intimate. TikTok's almost the complete opposite, and I guess Instagram sits at the intersection. And yet all three of these do a very good job of blending that fine line between reality and just consuming content, almost for the sake of it to a point. But I think there's a twist that a lot of people don't see, and that's that as we shape our presence on these platforms, they shape us too. Generation Like highlights how much media gives the illusion of control, and sometimes it makes us feel as if we're the ones who are being empowered, when in reality, we're not. They want us to feel like we're making the decisions, but in my opinion, our decisions are being swayed by the algorithm on the app that we are using. And this design choice influences not just our time, but also how we value ourselves. And some of us even demean our meaning, or maybe not our meaning, but certainly some of our value down to likes, shares, and views. I think all of this just raises the important question, which is, are these platforms using us or are we using them? And I think you can take both sides to it. There are influencers that make very decent livings off of social media and lots of different media networks and platforms. And at the same time, businesses use Facebook, Instagram to the great effect. But at the same time, many people in their day-to-day lives, millions across the planet, are getting stuck in this loop. And sometimes it's hard to escape. And certainly I can vouch for the fact that you can find yourself scrolling through TikTok for hours on end without really realizing. At the end of the day, social media is both empowering, a great tool, but it also can start this sort of downward spiral. I think it's finding that middle point, which is really hard to do. We are not educated well enough on. And therefore, I really would encourage people to go out there and do their best to discover truly where that line is and where their boundary is. Because I know certainly that it takes me, and it takes many people, and many of my friends, a long time to discover where that is. And I still find myself on countless occasions getting lost in that spiral.